Hello, friends. Welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In the first story, we tell you how our OP punished a cheap bride. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The day I ruined a wedding cake. I've worked at 2 grocery stores. The first I worked as a floral/bakery/cashier/bookkeeper. The second was strictly a cashier. This is from the first job. I worked as a bakery slave and hated it. Around the holidays, they'd cut us down to one person, me. My mom flipped out one Thanksgiving because my supervisor wouldn't let me leave. I was already on 2 hours of overtime, but I couldn't leave until all my food was packaged and the bakery items prepared for the next day. For reference, this included 14 full racks of pies. But it wasn't all too bad. My cake decorator was totally awesome. We didn't usually make wedding cakes. In 4 years, we only made 2. The first was exquisite. The second was a last-minute full sheet affair. I was alone again that day. The woman picking up the cake asked me to take it to her car. I didn't know how heavy that thing would be, or I would have put it in a cart. So I take it out to her brand new car with a leather interior. This woman was a terrible parker, over the line and right up next to the next car over. So she pulls open the door with a narrow enough gap that I'd have to squeeze it in with one hand. Sure enough, it's too heavy and the whipped cream had eaten the box, so whipped cream and white cake end up all over her nice leather interior. Oi. I apologize profusely, but don't admit fault. I take it back in and do what I can with white buttercream. This time I give it directly to her. She leaves and I breathe a sigh of relief. And isn't that sigh the death knell of all retail employees? A week later, the bride shows up. I get called up front by my ASM, the woman seething. As soon as she sees me, she starts screaming about how I'd ruined her wedding and her mother-in-law's car. I guess mother-in-law gave her my description. In her hand is the receipt for the cake, a detailing receipt, and the invoice to clean her wedding dress that got cake on it as the bride lifted the cake out of the car. I'm stuttering like an idiot, thinking I'll be fired. Unfortunately for the bride, she came in on the wrong day. My ASM had that butter wouldn't melt in his mouth disposition. It completely masked the I don't give a crap about the customer persona. She's flailing her papers around, telling him to pay her bills or she'll sue. I thought it had to be minutes that she was screaming, drawing attention to herself while my ASM stood there. His mustache didn't even tremble in the wild winds of her fury. I still think to this day, if she'd been nice, he would have accommodated her. But he didn't like people screaming at him. He was very passive-aggressive. So I'm standing there, mouth agape, because I was still relatively new to grocery retail. She draws herself to her not unimpressive height and is about to start again. In his sickliest sweet voice, he tells her, "I'm sorry your experience was lacking. We do strive to make our customers happy. Please think of us for any other bakery needs you may have. Enjoy the rest of your day." He walked away, poised and unafraid of this woman who was looking at his back like she couldn't decide whether to garrote him or sue him. I made the mistake of staying, in shock. Right when she zeroed in on me, he calls me. I glance over at him. He says in his smarmiest voice, "Don't you have work to do?" I would come to hate this man, but on that day, he was my hero. By the way, she took her complaints up the ladder. My company appears people-friendly, but really aren't. She never got a refund, or the cleaning bill for her dress, or the car. What did she get? A coupon for a free birthday cake. And our second story. Embarrass my department in front of the whole company? I do like to hold a grudge. Let me set the scene. It's April 2016. The company's received their customer service scores for the last 12 months, and it's mostly good, bar one department, which is just below the expected level set by the company. Unfortunately, I work in that department. Now, this was anticipated by just about everyone in our department because the overwhelming majority of our queries and complaints pertain to the cost of the work we do. A cost decided by the finance department, who are completely separate from us and aren't customer-facing, so don't have to deal with the issues caused by these costs. The results are announced on our internal website with a small note from the head of customer service. Reading the message, it's clear she's very happy with the results until she reaches ours. Now, I'm not going to post what she said, as it'd be very clear who I am if someone from work was to read this. In fact, they'll probably be able to tell anyway. But let's just say it was incredibly unprofessional and threw us completely under the bus in front of the entire company. Our manager invites her to come and spend a day with us to see what we're up against, but she declines. This pisses me off, because I see how hard our guys work every single day, and she's going to treat them like that? I'm a sucker for holding a grudge. Now it's 2018, she's blown over $100K trying to increase our satisfaction scores by investing it in the wrong areas, ignoring the real problem, which remains the price. In fact, they increased them earlier in the year. Rather than take the blame herself, she puts it on her team and somehow gets away with it. It gets to the point where she needs some results and has an idea, but it involves giving us more work on top of our already ridiculous workloads. In fact, by doing what she wanted, we'd be slower at completing the rest of our work, which would only have a negative impact on our scores. But she doesn't seem to get this. Needless to say, it fails. Who gets the blame? Not her. At this point, she has no idea I read that note 2 years ago and certainly wouldn't expect me to have remembered it for this long. Like I say, I'm a sucker for holding a grudge. She calls to speak to my manager, but I'm covering. She needs us to come up with an idea that she can put to the board of directors 2 weeks after the call, but she's going on holiday for 10 days and won't be able to look into an idea herself. I see what's happening. I come up with an idea, and if successful, she takes the credit. If it fails, I take the blame. I told her that it isn't my responsibility, but she insists. If my manager isn't about, I'm going to need to take this on, apparently. I'll leave this in your hands. You email me, but only when you've come up with something you think will work, and we'll go over it. No deadline, even though I know there is one. But she just said, when I come up with something I think will work, I can do that. She comes back from holiday. I've taken a fortnight off. I've only been off for 2 days and won't be back for another 12. I come back to work to find out she crapped the bed in her meeting with the board because she didn't have half an idea, let alone one that would work. She makes contact with me, asks me what I'm playing at and why I didn't do as she asked. I said I hadn't come up with an idea I thought would work yet. She tells me that there was a deadline, but I let her know that she hadn't told me that, just to offer my idea when I thought I'd found something that would work, which I still hadn't. I was doing exactly what she asked. The board was obviously pissed, revisited the situation with the 100K where her team practically threw her under the bus like she had with my department, and then them when the 100K investment went wrong. She's got a review with the board this week, and I've heard through the grapevine that she's crapping herself about being removed from her job role. Thankfully, not being sacked, but no longer being in a position where she can F people over when she doesn't perform. Beautiful. Thankfully not being sacked? You have a big heart. Good on you, ×2. And our next story. Thank you, you mean coworkers. 2 years ago, I was hired as a teacher by a district. I'd previously had a decade of experience in another place, but moving to a new city required this. When I started there, the other teachers were quick to be intimidating towards me. At first, I felt everyone against me, but I quickly learned it was really just these 3 women. They'd hold these meetings after school and go over rules and congratulate themselves a lot. It was like something out of Mean Girls. I was told who I could and could not talk to. Every outfit I wore was critiqued, with some being deemed, "Don't wear that again," and even malicious gossip being spread to students. These rules weren't written things. For example, I was chastised for failing to give a thank you card to teacher number 1 because she was in the interview when the principal hired me. I could go on for ages with dozens of these bizarre rules and passive-aggressive actions. The worst was when my webpage was edited with some nasty words, and the weirdest was when they tried to make it look like I was rigging a Teacher of the Month vote. It backfired splendidly. Things got better for a while because number 2 was out for FMLA, and number 3 got into some trouble with the district over other stuff. It was a horrible year overall, but I survived and wasn't going to leave because of their constant cruelty. In my time, I did speak to the principal about this twice and was extremely aware and supportive, but didn't want to rock the boat with them. They're scary. It was tricky because of how direct their attacks were, but also because they were really good at denying everything. About a month ago, some big changes happened within this district. Essentially, all the grades and schools were shuffled, resulting in each grade getting its own building, basically. Nearly all employees had to reapply for their jobs. I was in a panic, but a call from my principal assured me things were fine. We'd have a team of 4 teachers for my subject, and they would be selected by him. He hired me first, so I stopped worrying. And then he had some health issues. The other 3 teachers weren't getting hired with him out of commission. I began to worry. What kind of teachers will be left halfway through summer break? The principal asked me to do some interviews in his place, with the assistant principal from another site helping me. The first 2 interviews were great, and so we hire them. We still have 1 more spot, though, and the applications are still coming in. Then it happens. We get applications from number 1 and number 2. Seems number 3 didn't reapply at all, so good riddance. The interviews were golden. They dropped all pretense that they were innocent, and each one sold the others out about everything. They tried so hard to suck up with, "We were just so jealous of you," and such. I asked number 1 why she hadn't found a job elsewhere in the district, and I learned that she had applied everywhere she was certified for and was turned down repeatedly. Number 2 refused to work anywhere other than our building. They did nothing to help themselves get the job and wallowed in self-pity for half the interview. We hired a brand new teacher who seems promising, and as of this morning, 100% of the positions that they are certified for are filled. And perhaps it's mean, or perhaps it's just revenge, I sent both a thank you card after their interviews. You know, I have to say, if I were placed in a situation where I was suddenly tasked with deciding the future careers of people who'd been so unabashedly horrible and destructive to me in the past, I'd sit up straight, work super hard, and try my darndest not to laugh in their faces. Well done, and congrats. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.